Welcome to this raw reality, everybody. We are going to be talking about timelines of self. We'll be doing an exercise that will be from the perspective of our 80-year-old version of self. We'll also likely get into an exercise where we do it from the perspective of our 8-year-old version of self. And these are two different variations of self, right? Think about 80-year-old version of you, much wiser, much more experienced, has the perspective of looking back at life, looking back and remembering who you are now, as opposed to your 8-year-old version of self, which is looking into the future, looking towards possibly being you right now. Two very different perspectives, yet they are both existing now. This 8-year-old version of ourself, this 80-year-old version of self, we tap into those versions of self with our imagination, right? The image nation. If we think about images, what are images comprised of when we think about them? They're comprised of this internal light, right? A lot of that happens through our pineal gland. Think about dreams. Dreams are all completely non-physical, happening with visuals. We're actually seeing hues of colors of light, and that's because light, photons, travel. Well, I shouldn't say that, because science is not fully understanding photons. We say that photons travel, however, they might not be traveling because everything's made of light, right? So much like if you ask an electrician if electricity travels, and they're going to tell you not really. They're going to say yes and no. It's more of a, it gets activated down the line. It gives it looks like it's traveling, just like photons may look like they're traveling, but it's really just happening and activating. And so from the perspective of a photon, from the perspective of what a photon does, which is travel at the speed of light, that's what we say it does, there's no time. So when you guys are traveling at the speed of light, there's no time. Time doesn't exist. So time is relative. The closer you get to a gravitational source, time slows down. The faster that you go, time slows down. And if you start going the speed of light, time stops. There is no time at the speed of light. Why am I keep on mentioning that? Because we are made of light. Light has slowed down so that we have matter, and this matter, this material nature of ourselves, is having the experience of linear time. Within this universe of light, which is all existing now, beyond time. You guys get that? Are you following me so far? Probably not. So if there's light within us that is not bound by time, then we can sort of like portal into that light and experience different times and different spaces. And we're going to do that by going into our 80-year-old version of self. I'm just putting this whole foundation of light and the fact that we can travel and see through this light throughout time, so that it's not just a simple meditation. It's not, we don't relate to it as just an imagination, like a fake thing, but we actually can start to comprehend and harness the fact that there's aspects of ourself that are not bound by time and space, and it can be as simple as tuning our instrument to that channel. And then we can ride that vehicle of light into different realities and into different timelines. And that's what the image nation is. The nation, it relates to space. And then the image is the light. It's the fluctuating hues of light that are ever present. Peace, Rod. Thank you for showing up today to talk to us. Just joined. What are we talking about? Time and ourselves. Yeah, we're the prism portal. I like that. Prism portal. We are the hue man, right? We are the manifestation of hue, of light. Okay, so I said all of that just to basically say, imagine. So guys, take just get grounded in your life right now. Like, where are you? What's going on with your life? Just get grounded on what's popping out with your life right now. And then just let that go. Like, it's kind of just like we grasped onto it just enough so that we can release it. We can just kind of like float away from who we are in this moment. When we float away from who we are in this moment, this could help to close your eyes. This could really help if you guys have a journal or a writing instrument. But float out of yourself and place yourself in your imagination into your 80-year-old version of yourself. And you're standing in front of a group of people, or maybe you're standing in front of a mirror. But what you're doing is you're giving a lecture about your life, about your legacy. You're writing down in a journal what this 80-year-old version of self would say that your life legacy was about. Or you're imagining being in front of a group of people that were all lovingly accepting you and admiring you, and you're speaking about the legacy of your life. What are the things, you can close your eyes, you can free write, what are the things that this 80-year-old version of self is talking about? You guys can write in the comments if you would like, but I'm going to stop talking for a little bit. We'll just do one more minute here. If you're just joining, we are journaling about what the 80-year-old version of self would be saying is our life legacy. We're giving a speech in our imagination from our 80-year-old version of self's perspective about the legacy of our life. Who were we? What did we do? Who did we relate with? What is important to us? What sort of wisdom do we have to give to the room? And when you look at this list, if you made a list or a paragraph or an imagination, start to notice what sticks out. What sort of values are important to you at, nearing the graduation of your life? And maybe you're already 80. I know plenty of 80-year-olds, and maybe you just go 18 years in the future. But what is this future version of self? What does a graduated, nearly graduated version of yourself feel is important? Scott, what's up? Just joined. We did a meditation on the 80-year-old version of self and what the 80-year-old version of ourself would be saying to a group of people talking about the legacy of our life. And when you guys are looking at this, and we just did this was this week's self-expansion practice you can find on selfexpansion.app. I do these practices every week, and then we did a physical and energetic set after this, which was a lot of wild movement and breath. We made it through everything. This is a comment. And found freedom, peace, staying grounded, perseverance, and love. Yeah, so for me, and we took longer to write it down. I believe we took 5 minutes in the video. For me, it was a lot about family and lineage. And the relationship with the family and watching family grow. Which is vastly different than how I've lived my life, and I would even say how I'm living my life. It's not that much different. I would say since Carolina got pregnant, things have changed. But what is it for you? And when you look at these values of what your 80-year-old version of self deems is important, the key here is to think about an action step or a commitment, just one, that you can do today to nudge you or re-angle you in the direction that supports that 80-year-old versions of self experience and wisdom. Because where you're going right now is without the wisdom of your 80-year-old version of self. And with the wisdom of your 80-year-old version of self, is there a recalibration that you can do, however big or small, in the next few days? One thing that's going to support the journey of the 80-year-old version of self. Support the journey of the 80-year-old version of self. What would that be? For some of us, it might be detaching from something that you're struggling with right now. For others, it may be being consistent on some things. But this just gives us a broader experience of life if we're not only just narrowly focused on the present moment, which the present moment is here with us now. We are in this present moment accessing other present moments, because all moments are present, right? So when we talk about presence, everything's essentially a paradox, right? So we talk about presence, it's like, why are you in the future? Why are you worrying about the future? Why are you mad about the past? Well, past and future are also figments, and the past, what we're calling the past, is also the present. It's happening now. Same thing with the future. It's happening now. And so a lot of times if it's not serving you, then detaching from this quote past reality and the quote future reality, which is happening now, that's how we can access it. That's how we can attach to it, because it's happening now. It's really just a question of the space. It's happening now in a different reality, because we're traveling through realities as opposed to traveling through time, like we're taught. We're taught that, so yeah, exactly, no past or future, all is now, right? The antique writer. And what the antique writer means by that is, if there's no past or future, all is now, it means that we can't be traveling in one reality through time, but we're traveling in one time through multiple realities. And yes, detachment can be difficult. And so with that sort of paradigm, we made it. Oh, I already read that comment. So guys, now think about your 8-year-old version of self. When I think most everybody on here is older than 8. But if we think about our 8-year-old version of self, imagine your 8-year-old version of self. Remember before we started this, I told us to grasp on to where we are now and let it go. And so detach from where you are now, because that's the other thing, is that we can really shift reality in every moment. Bashar says that billions of times a second is a new reality. Melissa Madison reinvented herself over and over in order to create connections to people. She spent a lot of time physically, verbally, and with her body helping people so that they can realize their highest desires. Yes, that's a good example of the 80-year-old version of self. My intuition, or maybe it's my ego of the 80-year-old version, would be saying, I told you so. That provides the self-trust now. It's like feeding yourself faith right now. Okay. Now we do it from the 8-year-old version of self. Go back. For some of us, this might be easier because you actually remember being 8 years old. Really think about where you were at 8 years old. Do the math. Maybe you remember at a certain age. So I graduated high school at 17. I remember I started kindergarten as at 3 or 4 years old. I don't know. I would have to go back and do the math. But do the math of like actually what grade you were at in 8th grade. At 8 years old, my bad. So 8 minus 12. So I was in 4th grade. Starting 4th, yeah. And ending 3rd grade. So 3rd and 4th grade. So go back to the 8-year-old version of self. Where are you? Who are you? Harmonize into that. Go through the imagination, travel on light to get to that version of you. And journal for 90 seconds, or just imagine the ponderings and the wonderings of this 8-year-old version of self, how the 8-year-old version of self is viewing the rest of your life. How is this 8-year-old version of self viewing life that you're about to have? And again, detached from the life you actually had. And what is this 8-year-old with infinite possibilities? Where does this 8-year-old version of self see the future being? If you're just joining us, we're imagining or journaling the 8-year-old version of self and our 8-year-old versions of self perspective of life. What are the hopes, the dreams, the desires, the plans, the assumptions of our 8-year-old version of self, our 3rd and 4th grade version of self? The life is wonderful and anything is possible. Green grass and endless possibilities. Guys, we're all having different perspectives, so if you feel comfortable to share it, go ahead and do that. Yeah, Melissa Madison, I was saying exactly what you said. Imagine you were 8 years old. Imagine you were 8 years old imagining life and ignoring your current experiences up into this day. What was the imaginings of your 8-year-old version of self? And I choose 8, guys, because that 8-year-old version of self is the realist origin of who you are. I don't know what my 8-year-old self thought like. I don't remember, and that makes me sad. Maybe one day I'll remember. Life was carefree, love, laughter, family, unaware of what the future was. Exploring the magic of the world, overwhelming, so many things to explore. Yeah, and so we've got 2 different perspectives here, right? We imagined our 80-year-old version of self looking back, and now we're imagining our 8-year-old self looking forward. And for me, I feel there's contrast there. The 8-year-old version of self is just emerging out of this phase of programming. It's just emerging out of learning what the world is about. And that's what like 2 years old to 8 years old is. 2 years old, you're literally just starting to identify as an individual. Before 2 years old, you don't really know that there's a difference between yourself and a boob, right? Like it's just all one. And then eventually you start to realize like, wow, this is my hand. And that is a plate of food. And with my hands, I will throw this food on the ground. And that's what the terrible twos are about. It's about the self starting to identify as individual. And that beginning of theta brainwave frequency is where you're at in this age, and you keep that up until about 7 or 8 years old, and that's where most of the programming of our psychology happens. So then we end up going to school, we end up becoming an adult, but what's really running the show is this 7 or 8 year old version of ourself. That's the origin of our programming. So we're running programming of our 8-year-old version of self, if that makes sense. Because it's very difficult to change, guys. You know this. You know that if you're an angry person, you can't just say, I'm not angry anymore, or I'm going to be happy today. It's not so easy to change, and that's because our programmings are locked and only accessible in theta. That's sort of the password protected programming, and we unlock that programming when we get into theta, which is with things like breath work, meditation, just before sleep, just arising out of sleep. Different phases of the SEX word also gets us into theta, and we can really adjust our programming there. Now this 8-year-old version of self just figured out about, it's very self-identified, and it has dreams, it has wonderings, and for some of us it's completely open and free. The ones that left comments, I'll just reread them again. I'll reread some of them. Wanted to be able to fly. Yeah, that's spent all day pretending and playing. I was dreaming of the possibility of being adopted, and that maybe this was not my real mother. Did any of you guys earlier, like let's say 4, 5, so it's before the fontanelles close, which are the soft spots in the skull. Do any of you guys, there's a few dozen people on here, do any of you guys remember feeling that maybe you're not from this planet, or that you lived a life before? It'd be very rare that you actually remember this. Or do you have the experience of being around children that speak this way? Actually, I know someone who remembers feeling like that this wasn't their family, and that they had another family somewhere else on a different planet. As an adult, they remember that. And then I know several people who talk about their kids saying these things. Anybody here have that experience? When these soft spots are still open in the skull, it allows for more light, source energy to come in and be perceptible by ourself, by our brain. And then that can go into our life experience. Usually it's a veil. It's veiled. So many times I have a friend feels like not from this planet. I actually joke and say I'm not from here, I'm from Saturn. I always felt so different. You say we are running our 8-year-old programming, and you say that we can't change easily. Agreed. Progression is slow. Does progression only happen in theta? Yes, but theta isn't so difficult to get into. So like even just closing your eyes, you can be instantly in theta if you're well practiced at doing it. My 6-year-old grandson speaks of his life before and has since age 4. I'm glad you guys are sharing this, because then otherwise I just look like a weirdo. Is yoga nidra theta? Yes. It's a little bit. There's also this portal from theta to gamma. And gamma would be more like samadhi or enlightenment, or these are like theta jumps. You can go from like a very like low brainwave frequency to a very high of gamma, like instantaneously, without having to progress through beta and alpha. Energy healing can happen in an instant. It does not need to take long. Yes, I see a lot of things in the sky nobody else does. Does anyone want to elaborate what's going on with what they remember about maybe themselves being from a different phase or a different dimension or a different planet? A lot of times, as I said, that happens before the hard spots in the skull are formed. And for some people, it stays. It remains their entire life. Okay, so back to 8-year-old version of self and the dreams that this 8-year-old version of self had, and knowing that the programming that you're running right now is likely 8-year-old version of self, which means if you're not living what your 8-year-old version of self imagined life can be, then you may be out of sync. You may be out of sync. And if it feels like you're out of sync, like you're just like, man, at this age, feels like life would be a lot more, fill in the blank, a lot more joyous, meaningful, fulfilling. You guys, so I'm getting questions about how do we get into theta. So there's many ways, but I'm just like channeling. I'm like, what's coming to me right now? So I've actually never done this one before, but this is what's coming to me right now. Think about like, have you guys ever been on like a bus? Like I said, I've never even thought about this before. Have you guys been on a bus and it makes this weird sound? I think it's the brakes where it's like, it's like choo 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 choo. I don't know. It's usually like the shuttle buses going to and from the airport parking lots. I always hear this sound, and I think I remember it from like downtown buses as well. If you guys have ever been on a bus, it's like this choo 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 choo. So it's this like lowering frequency, exhaling sound. It's like releasing of pressure. So we're just going to do that with our body. You guys know that sound? You guys know that sound? I'll be 80 next year and already feel and see things so differently. Congratulations. Within breathing and surrendering into the vibration available. Yeah, so we're actually going to breathe and vibrate and lower. I want you guys to feel like you can make yourself more grounded and lighter at the same time. Is there a way that you guys can feel your body and feel it going down and up at the same time? Like you're grounded within this reality and you're almost like your spirit is lifting up. So there's always this polarity and happening, right? I'm just saying this stuff because it's coming to me as like being important to get us into theta. So imagine your body getting grounded and lighter at the same time. And you're going to take an inhale and you're just going to make that sound like you're choo 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 choo. Shoo, 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 shoo. When you inhale, you're amplifying the lightness of your body. When you exhale and make the sounds that progressively lower, you're feeling the groundedness of your body. So on the inhales, you're feeling lighter. On the exhales, you're grounding. Shoo, 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 shoo. Shoo, 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 shoo. It doesn't matter what the sounds sound like. Just start a little bit high and go lower with the sounds. You can use vowels if you would like. Shoo, 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 shoo. Do two more. Inhale, one more, and hold your breath at the bottom of the exhale. Shoo. Imagine yourself floating and being grounded at the same time. Imagine your heart releasing and almost opening up like a flower. Your heart is opening up like a flower. Inhale. Hold your breath. Feel as if you're lifting off the ground. Feel your body getting lighter. Feel all your cells getting lighter. Feel your heart getting lighter. And exhale. And keep your eyes closed. And think about your 8-year-old version of self. And imagine something that you're doing right now that your 8-year-old version of self doesn't like. It wishes that you let go of this need in your life, that there's no longer a hold over you to do this. And just very subtly, whatever this is, let go of it. It doesn't mean you need to stop doing it tomorrow, but just let go of it. You might feel that it's attached somewhere in your body. It could be work related, it could be relationship related, it could be a law, it could be a routine. And just detach from it, release from it, undo some of the hooks that it has inside of you. And as you're detaching from this, notice how your body feels. Notice what's possible without this in your life. Feel your 8-year-old version of self smiling at this lightness, at this freedom. And take one inhale into this space of freedom that we've created without this thing, this dense thing that we've been holding on to. Take one inhale into that. Feel that same sort of lightness and grounded energy of that breath. And just go ahead and exhale with a smile. Feel your heart smiling. And so I'll let you guys come out of that. When we access our body, like all of these things that we have within our reality, whether we have to do it or not, like we feel like if you thought of something that you're like, you have no idea how you can stop doing that thing. Right? You have no idea how you can stop. Like, let's say that thing is like watching my kids, right? And you have this negative association with that. And you're like, but there's no way I can't stop doing that. Well, that's why you're unable to change the program of your reality, because you're always in this beta mode of life, and you're just ruminating and constantly like running the same program. I can't get out of this. I don't like it. I can't get out of this. I don't like it. I can't get out of this. I don't like it. But when we put ourselves into a theta state, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're more suggestible, just like a 7-year-old or a 5-year-old is very highly suggestible. They're just inputting. Program. And so when we put ourselves into this suggestible state, or some people call it hypnotic, we're essentially self-hypnotizing ourselves to a suggestible state, and then we're performing actions, activities, thoughts to allow us to feel what it would feel like without. What I just did was I just picked like something that's stressing us out, and what does life feel like without that stress. And we don't need the mind to get in the way of that. The point of that is to feel what that space feels like when you create it. When you detach from the thing that you do not like doing, what does that feel like? And when we can feel what that feels like, and we can lock into that, with our heart, and we can lock into that with how we rearrange our thoughts around something. Wow, I really feel better without doing this thing the way that I've been doing it. And we can really feel what the emotions are. We really feel what we build another island. So we're living on an island, and in theta we can build another island. The bridge between the two now is possible. Without another island built, because if you've just been thinking and ruminating and just like unable to get out of what you know to be true, there's no other island to be built, so there's just going to be a bridge to nowhere. You're going to be just like, I want to get away from this. I want to get away from this. It's not going to sink in anywhere. And so what I just did was allowed us to imagine what life would be like without, it could be a big thing, guys. It literally could be like, I don't want to work anymore. There's plenty of people, I'm one of them, that had a fully functioning business and just one day decided, done. And still trusting that I'm going to live the same lifestyle. Trust and faith, because I understood what this other island looked like. I understood what the island looked like. And you can do that when you get into the state of frequency, because you're not being blocked by the logical mind. Like Reiki, I don't feel my pain. I've learned to shut my pain off for a while using Reiki. My 8-year-old self was enjoying the lightness in this breath meditation. Yay, I was flying, floating, like I wished at 8. Oh yeah, that's right. I completely forgot that your 8-year-old version of self thought they were going to fly. And then you asked a question, and then that was my answer. Okay, my hoarding issue has come to my 6-year-old self trying to help my family by trying to earn a way to feed us. Does theta feel like trust? Yeah, so those words like trust and faith and love really just all mean harmony. It means that things are in sync. And then distractions from that perfect sync is where we get what we call lower vibrations of anger and shame and fear. And some say that the opposite of love isn't hate or anger, but the opposite of love is fear. So when you mention trust, trust would be essentially the elimination of fear, right? Like you will trust when there's no fear. So yes, harmony within self, harmony within your actions, harmony within your thoughts, harmony within your emotions is really what allows you to be full. And when we are harmonious, then we are going to be able to be harmonious with others because we can see them as a progression. And when we become harmonious with self, then we can start to work together, harmonize. And that's really what all of this is about. We are, from my perspective, we're like that 2-year-old. We're waking up to the fact that we're individuals. And so we're like, wow, I'm a separate being amongst all of this that I was once a part of. I was once light, air, earth, water. That's what makes me up. And so now I'm realizing my individual nature within this realm of elements. And the purpose of us being individuals is so that we have a unique experience, because this is an illusion, this illusion of separateness. We have this illusion of time and individuality here so that we can perceive and experience from our perspectives. We are the totality of everything. Some people call that God. We are God experiencing life through us. But we are still, we are also an aspect of the whole. We're an individual and we're an aspect. The reason why we're an individual is because when we merge back into the whole, we need to be strong, capable, experienced individuals so that when we lock in and unify with the universal self, we bring our wisdom of your life. And we're all living different lifetimes, many different ways. And when we merge back in, then the whole unit will have the comprehension and experience and integrated wisdom of everybody. And we're doing that on Earth, and it's been done on other planets. I mean, Mars, Venus, these are planets that looked used up and dead from our perspective, because we're in a time where that's our perspective. All right, that's a bigger tangent than I want to get into right now about the gravitational universe versus the electric growing universe. I've been studying respecting progression as a necessary slow growth change. You just said that others are progressing of ourselves. That just paradigm shifted for me. Others are a progression of ourselves. You always come through for me every time. So when we can recognize ourselves as a progression and we can harmonize with that, then we will be able to see other people as a progression. And when they have a bad day, quote, bad day, and bump into us, we can realize that you've bumped into a lot of people as well, and that was all a learning experience for you. And so other people's were your learning experience, and you might be somebody else's learning experience. And that person might need a lot of people to learn through, and you might just be one of 1,000. And you can still love them for that, which essentially, as I already foundationally said, love is really, it's not like what it's sold to us in Hollywood, that it's like this thing between two people. Love is essentially the harmonization of everything. I'm going to end it there, people. We did 2 exercises. If you guys missed those, we did a meditation on 8-year-old version of self and 80-year-old version of self. And then we also did a detachment exercise. And talk to you guys next week. I'm here Mondays where we talk to Chris Witecki about astrology. And then I'm here every Wednesdays at noon Pacific time, where I talk mostly about our experience of life and self-expansion and the mechanics of reality.